The council chamber was a massive structure floating in deep space. Inside, thousands of alien beings sat in their designated seats, representing hundreds of different worlds. The room glowed with soft blue light that reflected off crystalline walls. At the center stood a small podium where Daniel Grant waited, representing Earth and all of humanity. Daniel looked around the enormous chamber and felt very small. His species had been part of this galactic council for 300 years, but they had never been treated as equals. The aliens saw humans as weak creatures who needed to be controlled and limited. They had made Earth sign treaties that restricted everything: how many ships humans could build, what weapons they could develop, which star systems they could colonize. The list went on and on. For 3 centuries, humanity had followed every single rule. They believed the Council's promises of protection and fairness. They believed that if they played by the rules, they would eventually be accepted as equals. Today, Daniel realized how wrong they had been. The Dreason Coalition, a group of 6 powerful alien species, had brought a proposal to vote. They wanted to take over the remaining human colonies. They called it a protective annexation, which sounded nice, but really meant conquest. They claimed humans needed alien supervision for their own safety. Katie Sullivan, Earth's senior ambassador, had spent weeks presenting evidence against this proposal. She showed intercepted messages that proved the Dreason planned to enslave human populations and steal their resources. She presented recordings of Dreason military commanders discussing how to divide human worlds among themselves. She brought witnesses who had escaped from Dreason prison camps. None of it mattered. The council voted anyway. Daniel watched the results appear on the massive display screen. 847 votes in favor, 12 against, 3 abstentions. His hands trembled as the numbers appeared. Every alien in the chamber knew this was wrong, but they voted for it anyway because they were afraid of the Dreason, or because they simply did not care about humanity. Heavy footsteps approached. Daniel turned to see Kazreth, the Dreason ambassador, walking toward him. Kazreth was huge, nearly 3 meters tall, covered in thick scales that shimmered like metal. His eyes were cold and reptilian as he looked down at the human. "Your species should never have left your little blue planet," Kazreth said loudly, making sure nearby delegates could hear him. "You are weak. You have no claws to fight with, no thick skin to protect you, no special powers like the other races. You are just prey animals, pretending to be civilized." Laughter rippled through the chamber. Other aliens joined in, mocking humanity's physical weakness. It was not the first time Daniel had heard such insults, but today they cut deeper because Kazreth had won. The vote was over. Earth had lost. Katie placed her hand on Daniel's shoulder. Her touch was steady and calm. She stepped up to their podium and activated the communication system, so her voice would reach every corner of the galaxy. "This council has made its decision," Katie said, her voice cold and controlled. "Humanity will respond accordingly." The laughter stopped. Something in her tone made even the most arrogant aliens pause. It was not anger or fear in her voice. It was certainty. "For 300 years, Katie continued, "we have honored every agreement you forced upon us, every treaty that limited our growth, every restriction you placed on our military and technology. We did this because we believed in the principles this council claimed to represent: justice, fairness, protection of all species." Holographic documents materialized in the air above the chamber floor. There were hundreds of them, maybe thousands. Every treaty, every accord, every agreement that had bound humanity for 3 centuries appeared floating in the air for all to see. "We believed you," Katie said quietly. "That was our mistake." She pressed another button. One by one, the holographic documents began to glow red and then dissolve into nothing. The chamber watched in shocked silence as 300 years of treaties disappeared. Effective immediately, Katie announced. The human race withdraws from all Galactic Council treaties and accords. We recognize no authority over our species except our own. We acknowledge no restrictions except those we choose to impose on ourselves. As of this moment, humanity is bowed by nothing you have written. The chamber erupted into chaos. Aliens shouted in dozens of different languages. Others activated their communication devices to contact their home worlds. The Council Arbiter, an ancient being of pure energy named Lysander, flared brightly with indignation. "You cannot simply withdraw." Lysander's voice boomed through the chamber like thunder. "These treaties are binding. They exist to protect you and maintain order in the galaxy." Katie smiled. It was not a warm smile. It was the kind of smile that made Daniel think of predators showing their teeth before they attacked. "Then stop us," Katie said simply. Daniel activated the final protocol. It was a transmission that had been prepared years ago and locked behind security codes that required approval from every branch of Earth's government. The message went out simultaneously to every human colony, every military base, every research station scattered across their 12 star systems. The transmission contained only 2 words: Pandora opens. In the council chamber, aliens began shouting questions. What did that mean? What was Pandora? Was it a weapon? A threat? Katie did not answer any of them. She simply gathered her documents and walked toward the exit, with Daniel following close behind. As they reached the door, Kazreth blocked their path. "You will regret this," he hissed. "The Dreason Coalition will enforce the Council's decision. We will take your worlds whether you agree or not." Katie looked up at the massive alien without any trace of fear. "You are welcome to try," she said. "In fact, I encourage it. Come to our space with your fleets. Bring your armies. Show us the might of the Dreason Coalition." "We will crush you," Kazreth promised. "Perhaps. Or perhaps you will learn that humanity has been preparing for this day since the moment we signed your first treaty. Perhaps you will discover that we have been playing a very long game, and you have all been fooled." She stepped around him and walked out of the chamber. Daniel followed, his heart pounding. Behind them, the council descended into arguments and accusations. Some species demanded that humanity be punished immediately. Others called for caution. A few wise ones suggested that maybe, just maybe, they should consider why humanity seemed so confident. As their ship departed from the council station, Daniel looked at Katie. "Did we really just declare independence from the entire galaxy?" Katie nodded. "Yes, and now they will come for us with everything they have. Are we ready?" Katie looked out at the stars. "For 300 years, we have been building in secret, creating weapons they cannot imagine, developing technology they forbade us from researching, preparing for the day when we would finally say enough." She turned to Daniel with that same predatory smile. "Oh yes, Daniel, we are ready, and they have no idea what is coming." The message reached Vice Admiral Lisa Monroe while she stood on the bridge of the Valiant, Earth's flagship. The 2 words appeared on her personal screen: Pandora opens. For a moment, Lisa just stared at the message. She had spent her entire military career commanding ships that were deliberately weakened to satisfy alien fears. She had watched friends die because their weapons were not powerful enough or their shields were restricted by treaty requirements. Every battle she had fought with one hand tied behind her back. Not anymore. Confirmation received from Earth Central Command, her communications officer announced to the bridge crew. "All treaty restrictions are lifted. Authorization code Pandora is active. We are cleared to begin protocol resurrection." Lisa took a deep breath and turned to face her crew. She saw the same expression on every face, relief mixed with anticipation. They had all been waiting for this moment. "Begin protocol resurrection," Lisa ordered. "Activate all dormant systems. Unseal the weapons archives. Wake up everything we have been hiding. Across human space, the same scene played out on hundreds of ships. Engineers rushed to sealed compartments that had not been opened in generations. Weapon systems that had been installed but never activated suddenly came online. Power reactors that had been deliberately throttled to meet treaty limits roared to full capacity. Ship after ship transformed from treaty-compliant vessels into true warships. The truth was simple and stunning. Humanity had never stopped advancing. They had just learned to hide it very, very well. Every treaty Earth had signed contained loopholes if you looked carefully enough. The Technology Suppression Treaty banned faster-than-light weapons, so humanity developed relativistic kinetic systems instead. The projectiles traveled just below light speed, which technically was not faster than light. The military limitation accords capped fleet sizes, but said nothing about ships kept in reserve status or automated defense platforms. The research restrictions prevented certain weapons development, unless that research was labeled as theoretical physics or civilian applications. For 300 years, human scientists and engineers had worked in secret facilities. They designed weapons that existed only as blueprints, waiting for authorization to be built. They constructed ships with hollow compartments, ready to receive the systems that would make them deadly. They prepared for the possibility that the Council's promises were worthless. Today, all that preparation became reality. Commander Jake Peterson supervised the activation of humanity's hidden industrial complex. Throughout the solar system, facilities that had been disguised as simple mining operations revealed their true purpose. Asteroid bases powered up their manufacturing systems. Shipyards that had been building slow, treaty-compliant freighters suddenly began assembling warships from designs that had been waiting in classified databases for decades. The construction speed was incredible. Automated systems that had been refined over centuries but never deployed worked with perfect coordination. Swarms of construction drones assembled ships at a rate that would have seemed impossible under the old restrictions. They worked without rest, without mistakes, guided by artificial intelligence programs that the Council had forbidden, but humanity had created anyway. How long until the first new generation warships are operational? Jake asked his chief engineer. The first squadron of Fury-class destroyers will be combat-ready in 72 hours. The Zeus-class battlecruisers need 1 week. But sir, you should see the projections for the Ragnarok-class dreadnoughts. Jake reviewed the specifications on his screen. Each Ragnarok was 5 kilometers long. The designs showed weapon systems that drew power from miniature black holes, technology the Council had explicitly banned as too dangerous for younger species. Each ship carried enough firepower to crack a planet's crust or sterilize an entire star system. The design had been finalized 200 years ago. Humanity had simply been waiting for permission to build them. How many can we produce at full capacity? Jake asked. 12 per month, Emma replied. More if we activate the secondary foundries. On the Valiant, Lisa received status reports from across human space. Every colony, every outpost, every hidden research station reported the same thing. They were ready. Defense installations that the Council believed were simple planetary shields revealed themselves as fortress networks capable of fighting off entire invasion fleets. Civilian cargo ships that had been carrying trade goods for decades activated hidden weapon systems. But the most important changes were happening in laboratories across human-controlled space. Dr. Alex Carter led a research team that had spent careers working on projects labeled as theoretical research. The Council had dismissed their work as impractical daydreaming. Studies on exotic matter, quantum entanglement, dimensional physics. None of it seemed immediately useful, so the aliens had ignored it. They had made a fatal mistake. The Fold Space Disruptor is ready for field testing, Alex reported to Earth Central Command. We can create localized disruptions in space-time that will make faster-than-light travel impossible in designated zones. Enemy fleets will not be able to jump away or receive reinforcements. They will be trapped. Other projects came online just as quickly. Quantum communication networks that could not be intercepted or jammed. Cloaking systems that bent light and sensor radiation around entire fleets, making them invisible. Nanoscale weapons that could disassemble enemy ships molecule by molecule. And then there were the weapons humanity hoped to never use. Deep beneath Earth's surface, in a facility that only a handful of people knew existed, Director Chris Bennett oversaw final preparations of humanity's deterrent arsenal. The research conducted here violated not just Council treaties, but several moral conventions that most humans found deeply disturbing. Stellar igniters that could cause stars to explode. Self-replicating machines that could consume entire planets. Biological weapons designed to target specific alien genetic markers. Memetic weapons that could rewrite the thought patterns of entire civilizations. Chris had argued against building some of these systems, but he had been overruled by people who understood a harsh truth. When you are the weakest species in a hostile galaxy, you cannot afford to be merciful. You need weapons terrible enough to make your enemies afraid to attack you. All deterrent systems are online and ready for deployment, Chris reported. I hope we never have to use them. His assistant looked at the weapon specifications with horror. If we use these, we will be no better than the species that oppressed us. Chris nodded slowly. Perhaps, but we will be alive, and sometimes survival requires doing terrible things. The key is having the wisdom to know when those things are truly necessary. Within 1 week of Katie's declaration at the Council, humanity's true military power began to show itself. Research stations that had seemed harmless activated advanced sensor networks. Defense platforms that had looked outdated revealed cutting-edge technology. Ships that had appeared slow and weak suddenly moved with incredible speed and precision. The species that had seemed confined and helpless, limited to 12 systems and bound by treaty, transformed into something else entirely. Something dangerous. Something that had been hiding its true nature for 300 years. And across the galaxy, the Galactic Council began to understand that they had made a terrible, terrible mistake. They had pushed humanity too far. They had treated Earth like prey. They had forgotten that on Earth's homeworld, prey animals did not survive. Predators did. Humanity had always been predators. They had just been pretending to be prey until the right moment arrived. The Dreason coalition moved fast after humanity's withdrawal from the treaties. Kazreth, confident in his species' strength, gathered an armada of 5,000 warships to enforce the Council's annexation order. It was the largest military force seen in Council space for over a century. Overwhelming power meant to crush human resistance in one devastating attack. The fleet assembled at the edge of human territory, in a system that Earth had been forced to abandon decades earlier. Kazreth stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Eternal Conquest, watching his fleet arrange itself into battle formation. 5,000 ships. Surely more than enough to defeat the primitive humans. Intelligence reports indicate the humans have 12 systems and approximately 300 military vessels, his tactical officer reported. Even as they built more ships since withdrawing from the treaties, they cannot have more than a few hundred. Our numerical advantage is overwhelming. Kazreth felt completely confident when his sensors detected the human response fleet approaching. 200 ships, led by Admiral Lisa Monroe aboard the Valiant. Pitifully small compared to his armada. The humans were either very brave or very stupid. Open a channel to their flagship, Kazreth ordered. Let us give them one chance to surrender with dignity. Lisa's face appeared on his view screen. She looked calm and composed, showing no fear despite being outnumbered 25-1. Admiral Monroe, you're outgunned by a massive margin, Kazreth announced. Surrender now, and your species will be treated mercifully under Dreason protection. Continue to resist, and we will be forced to destroy your fleet. I have a counteroffer, Lisa replied evenly. Turn your fleet around and leave human space. You have one chance to withdraw peacefully. Khazreth laughed, a harsh sound that echoed through his bridge. You cannot be serious. Do you not understand basic mathematics? We have 5,000 ships. You have 200. The outcome of this battle is already decided. Numbers are not everything, Lisa said. You have 15 seconds to turn around and leave. The Dreason commander cut the transmission, still chuckling. All ships prepare to engage. Target their flagship first. We will make an example of their admiral. The human fleet opened fire first. But these were not the weapons Khazreth expected. No slow plasma torpedoes or weak energy beams. Instead, projectiles accelerated to 90% of light speed crossed the distance between the fleets in seconds. Each projectile weighed only a few kilograms, but at that velocity, it carried the destructive energy of a nuclear explosion. The front line of Khazreth's fleet simply ceased to exist. 300 ships vaporized in the first attack. Their shields meant nothing against weapons striking with such overwhelming force. The impacts happened so fast that matter did not even have time to scatter before being obliterated. "Evasive maneuvers!" Khazreth screamed. "Return fire immediately!" But the human ships were moving in ways that should have been impossible. They flickered and vanished, reappearing hundreds of kilometers away. Micro jumps through space, teleporting short distances to make targeting impossible. Their shields absorbed energy weapon fire that would have destroyed treaty-compliant vessels, powered by reactors that had been hidden for generations. Commander Jake Peterson's squadron of newly built Fury-class destroyers tore through the Dreason formation like wolves among sheep. Each destroyer was small, barely 1/5 the size of a Dreason cruiser, but they moved with incredible precision and speed. Swarms of hunter-killer drones launched from their bays, each drone equipped with artificial intelligence that could outthink most organic pilots. The drones found weaknesses in Dreason shields that the aliens did not even know existed. They exploited gaps in point defense coverage and delivered various payloads. Some released clouds of nanomachines that ate through hull plating like acid. Others generated localized gravity wells that crushed ships inward. A few carried conventional explosives, but even those were devastating when placed with surgical precision. Khazreth watched in growing horror as his overwhelming numerical advantage disappeared. The humans fought with ferocity and technological sophistication that defied everything the Council believed about them. These were not weak, treaty-bound primitives. These were apex predators who had been playing weak to survive. "Fall back to defensive formation," Khazreth ordered desperately. "Concentrate all fire on their flagship." The Valiant's main weapon fired. It was something human engineers called a stellar lance, a directed beam of exotic particles that drew power directly from Earth's sun through a quantum connection. The beam punched through normal space, bypassing conventional shields completely. The Eternal Conquest's shields flickered and died. The beam struck the flagship's reactor core dead center. For one moment, nothing happened. Then the ship exploded with the force of a small star, taking 24 nearby vessels with it in a massive fireball. Khazreth survived only because his crew threw him into an escape pod in the final seconds before the explosion. Drifting in space, watching his armada burn around him, he finally understood the truth. Humanity had never been prey. They had been a trap, baited with apparent weakness, waiting for someone foolish enough to attack. The battle lasted less than 3 hours. Of the 5,000 ships Khazreth had brought to crush humanity, fewer than 400 escaped. The rest were destroyed, disabled, or captured. Human casualties were minimal. 12 ships damaged, none destroyed. It was not a battle, it was a massacre. When news of the Dreason defeat reached the Galactic Council, Panic spread through the chamber like wildfire. Species that had mocked humanity now scrambled to review their own military defenses. The Vraxian Empire, which controlled thousands of systems through military might, suddenly realized their fleets were designed to fight opponents who followed council rules. Humanity did not follow those rules anymore. Ambassador Katie Sullivan addressed the council from Earth, her image projected into their chamber. Every delegate watched in silence, afraid of what she might say. "The Dreason coalition violated our sovereignty," Katie stated coldly. "They brought 5,000 warships to our space with intent to conquer our worlds. We responded with appropriate force. Any species that attempts similar aggression will face identical consequences." "You murdered millions," one delegate screamed. "This is genocide. This is a war crime." "We destroyed military vessels engaged in hostile action against our territory," Katie corrected without emotion. "Every ship was given the opportunity to withdraw peacefully. They chose war instead. This is what war with humanity looks like when we are not handicapped by your treaties." Lysander, the council arbiter, flickered with visible distress. "You cannot simply ignore the council's authority. We exist to maintain order in this galaxy. Without our oversight, there will be chaos." "You maintained your own power," Katie replied sharply. "You used treaties to keep younger species weak, while elder races grew strong. You claimed to offer protection, but provided none when we needed it. That system has ended. Humanity will defend itself by any means necessary." She paused, letting her words sink in. "We will honor agreements with species that treat us as equals. We will protect those who cannot protect themselves. And we will annihilate any who see us as prey to be hunted." "This is insane," another delegate cried out. "If every species abandons the treaties, the entire galaxy will descend into warfare and chaos." Katie smiled that same cold, dangerous smile she had shown Kazrith days earlier. "Then I suggest the Council reconsider how it treats species it considers lesser. Because if you continue to push us, you will discover that humans are very, very good at chaos. We evolved in chaos. We were forged by it. And if you force us to bring chaos to this galaxy, you will not survive what follows." The transmission ended. Katie's image disappeared, leaving the council in shocked silence. Across the galaxy, military planners began revising their strategies. Treaties that had seemed permanent suddenly looked fragile. The balance of power that had existed for thousands of years was shifting. And at the center of that shift was a species that everyone had underestimated. Humanity had been taunted. They had been pushed. They had been told they were weak and helpless. They had responded by showing the galaxy exactly how wrong that assessment was. The Vraxian Empire had ruled its region of space for 5,000 years. Its military forces numbered in the hundreds of thousands. Emperor Vexnar, a being of pure energy contained within a massive crystalline form, watched humanity's victory over the Dreason with contempt rather than concern. "The Dreason were weak and stupid," he declared to his war council. "They relied on numbers without proper strategy. We will not make the same mistake." The Vraxian Empire controlled 47 star systems along humanity's border. Those systems had once belonged to a species called the Turellians, before the Vraxians exterminated them 2 centuries ago. The Council had condemned the genocide, but done nothing to stop it. Now Vexnar saw an opportunity to expand his empire further, by crushing the upstart humans. "The humans have revealed advanced weapons, yes," the Emperor mused, "but they still control only 12 systems. We will not attack their fleets. We will attack their worlds directly. Simultaneous strikes on all 12 colonies. We will force them to spread their forces thin, trying to defend everything. Then we will crush them, system by system." His generals prepared the largest assault the Vraxian Empire had launched in 1,000 years. 100,000 warships would jump into human space simultaneously, bypass the frontier defense fleets entirely, and bombard the colonies from orbit. Without their infrastructure and population centers, humanity would collapse quickly. The attack was scheduled to begin in 72 hours. It never happened. On Mars, Dr. Alex Carter activated a system he had hoped humanity would never need to use. The Fold Space Disruptor Network came online, creating massive distortions in the fabric of space-time around all Vraxian-controlled systems. Faster-than-light travel became impossible within the affected zones. The Vraxian fleet, preparing to jump into human space, found themselves trapped in their own territory. "What is happening?" Vexnar raged at his scientists. "Our jump drives are offline. All of them. Fix this immediately." Before his scientists could even begin analyzing the problem, humanity struck back. The attack did not come from conventional fleets. Instead, weapons platforms that had been hidden in deep space for decades suddenly activated. They had been drifting dormant for so long that stellar dust covered their hulls, making them invisible to sensors. They had waited patiently in the void between stars, positioned years or even decades in advance. Each platform carried a single weapon, a stellar igniter. The technology was simple in concept, but devastating in application. A device the size of a small shuttle could trigger a cascading reaction inside a star, destabilizing it within hours. The sun would expand rapidly, consuming inner planets before collapsing. Depending on the star's mass, it might go supernova afterward. Humanity activated 12 stellar igniters simultaneously, targeting 12 critical Vraxian systems. Emperor Vexnar received the alerts at the same time. 12 of his most important systems, including the imperial capital, were experiencing catastrophic solar instabilities. His scientists projected complete stellar collapse within 30 hours. Emergency evacuations could save some civilians, but the industrial infrastructure, the military shipyards, the government centers would all be lost. "Stop whatever you are doing," Vexnar transmitted to Earth in a panic. "This is insane. You are destroying entire star systems. Billions will die." Katie Sullivan's response was broadcast across all Vraxian communication channels, so everyone in the Empire could hear. "You plan to bombard our colonies from orbit. You intended to kill billions of humans. We intercepted your attack orders. We know exactly what you plan to do. This is our proportional response." "Proportional?" The Emperor's voice cracked with fury and fear. "You are destroying 12 entire star systems for a plan that was not even executed yet." "Yes," Katie said simply, her voice cold as ice. "We are demonstrating what happens when someone threatens human worlds. You have 30 hours to evacuate your populations. We deliberately chose systems with high military value but lower civilian populations. We are not monsters, Emperor Vexnar, but we are absolutely willing to do monstrous things to protect our species. The Council will condemn this action. They will brand you as criminals. The Council is complicit in everything that has happened to humanity for 3 centuries, Katie replied. They will do nothing, because they are terrified we will do the same to them. They know we have the capability. They know we have the will. They will stay silent and hope we never turn our weapons on their worlds." Vexnar realized she was right. He could already see the panicked transmissions flooding in from other Council species. They were not condemning humanity's actions. They were desperately reviewing their own plans and military positions, terrified they might be next on humanity's target list. "What do you want from us?" the Emperor asked, his voice defeated. "Complete and immediate withdrawal from all 47 systems along our border," Katie stated. "Full reparations for the resources you extracted from those worlds over the past 2 centuries. And a non-aggression treaty that you will actually honor, because you will understand the consequences of breaking it. And if I refuse these demands, then We activate the stellar igniters positioned in your remaining 35 systems. All of them. Simultaneously. Your entire empire dies in fire. Every world you control becomes ash. And we will sleep soundly at night, knowing we eliminated a threat to human survival. The Emperor stared at her transmitted image, searching desperately for any sign that she was bluffing. He found none. This human female meant every single word. Her species had built weapons capable of destroying stars, and had been patient enough to secretly position them throughout Vraxian space over many years. They had planned for this exact scenario while pretending to be weak and harmless. I accept your terms, Vexnar said quietly, his pride shattered. The evacuation of 12 Vraxian systems became the largest humanitarian crisis in recorded galactic history. Billions of civilians fled to neighboring systems. Ships of all kinds rushed to carry refugees to safety. Orbital stations were abandoned. Planetary populations scrambled for transport off-world. And in a move that shocked many observers, humanity assisted with the evacuation. Human ships that had been threatening Vraxian fleets just days earlier now transported refugees. Human medical teams treated Vraxian wounded. Human engineers helped disabled evacuation ships make repairs. Admiral Lisa Monroe, personally overseeing the evacuation efforts from the Valiant, explained it to a confused Vraxian admiral who did not understand why his enemies were helping. "We destroyed your military capability because you threatened our existence," Lisa said. "But we are saving your civilians because they are not our enemy. Humans can be absolutely vicious in war and deeply compassionate in peace. The key is learning the difference between the two. Your emperor threatened our people. Your civilians did nothing wrong. We will not punish them for his mistakes." The 12 Vraxian suns collapsed on schedule, exactly 30 hours after the igniters were activated. Humanity made no attempt to reverse the process or stop the stellar destruction. 12 systems died, their stars going dark, leaving only debris fields and the cold remains of planets. They stood as permanent monuments to what happened when someone threatened Earth. Word of the Vraxian catastrophe spread across the galaxy faster than light-speed communication. Other species that had been considering aggressive actions against humanity immediately reconsidered. The Thessian Confederacy, which had been negotiating a military alliance with the Vraxians, immediately opened diplomatic channels with Earth instead. The Chiral swarms, known for their aggressive expansion policies, pulled their fleets back from systems anywhere near human territory. Military analysts across the galaxy revised their threat assessments. Humanity was no longer classified as a minor species with limited military capability. They were now classified as a potential extinction-level threat to any species that provoked them. And in the Galactic Council chamber, for the first time in 300 years, when a human ambassador spoke, every other delegate listened in complete and respectful silence. The species that had been mocked and restricted had become the most feared military power in known space, not through conquest, not through displays of strength, but through cold, calculated demonstrations that they possessed both the capability and the absolute will to destroy anyone who threatened their survival. 6 months after humanity withdrew from all Galactic Council treaties, the political structure of the entire galaxy had changed completely. The Council still existed in its massive space station, but its authority had been broken beyond repair. Species that had relied on treaties for protection now understood those agreements were only as strong as the will to enforce them. The Council had proven it would not enforce anything against powerful military forces. Humanity had demonstrated overwhelming power, and the galaxy reacted with a mixture of fear and pragmatism. Ambassador Katie Sullivan walked through the corridors of the council chamber. The atmosphere was different now. Where before she had been met with condescension and mockery, now delegates stepped aside respectfully when she passed. Some even bowed slightly, though whether from respect or fear, she could not tell. The Galactic Council had requested, not demanded, that humanity return for new negotiations. The tone of their invitation had been completely different from the arrogance humanity endured for 3 centuries. They were asking, almost begging, for Earth to participate in creating a new system of galactic governance. Katie entered the main assembly hall and immediately noticed the changes. The chamber had been rearranged. Humanity's podium, which had been placed in the back with other minor species, now stood at the front, level with the elder races. The symbolic message was clear. Earth was no longer considered lesser. Lysander, the council arbiter, shimmered with carefully controlled emotion. Ambassador Sullivan, thank you for agreeing to attend these discussions. I am here to listen. Whether we agree to anything depends entirely on what you are offering. A delegate from the Thessian Confederacy spoke first. The Council wishes to propose a completely new framework for interstellar relations, one that acknowledges the realities that recent events have made abundantly clear. The old system was flawed. Katie waited silently, letting them make their case. She would not make this easy for them. The old treaties were designed for a different era. Another delegate continued carefully. We now see that they created resentment and instability rather than peace and cooperation. We propose a new system based on mutual respect and recognition of sovereign equality for all species. The treaties you spent 3 centuries forcing on my species, Katie asked coldly, the ones that restricted our military, limited our technology, prevented our expansion, now you have suddenly discovered they created resentment? The chamber shifted uncomfortably. Many delegates looked away, unable to meet her gaze. We acknowledge that serious mistakes were made, Lysander said carefully. The Council failed to treat all species with appropriate respect and dignity. We wish to correct those errors. No, Katie said firmly. The Council succeeded at exactly what it was designed to do. Keep powerful species powerful and weak species weak. Maintain the status quo where elder races controlled everything. You only care now because we proved we are not weak, because we demonstrated we can destroy anyone who threatens us. Admiral Lisa Monroe, attending the session in her formal uniform, stood beside Katie. She had become legendary across the galaxy. The human who destroyed 5,000 ships with only 200. Some species feared her. Others respected her. None underestimated her anymore. What humanity wants is simple, Lisa stated clearly. We want freedom to develop our technology without artificial restrictions. We want the ability to defend ourselves as we see fit. We want access to the same resources and opportunities available to elder races. And we want our sovereignty respected, not as a courtesy, but as a fundamental right of all sentient species. What about your weapons? A nervous delegate asked. The stellar igniters, the relativistic kinetic weapons, the fold space disruptors. Will humanity agree to any limitations on these systems? Katie smiled slightly. We will limit our weapons exactly as much as you limit yours. If the Council wants real disarmament treaties that actually mean something, we will participate. But only if they apply equally to all species without exception, including the elder races. The chamber erupted in protests. The elder races had never agreed to disarm themselves. Their military superiority was the foundation of their power and influence. They could not imagine giving that up. Then we have nothing more to discuss, Katie said, turning toward the exit. Humanity will not accept a system where we are limited, but others are not. Either we are equals, or we are enemies. Choose. Wait, please, Lysander called out urgently. Perhaps we can find common ground on this issue. The negotiations lasted 3 full weeks. Humanity drove a hard bargain, using the leverage of their demonstrated military capabilities and the galaxy's obvious fear of their weapons. But Katie and her diplomatic team also showed a surprising pragmatism that caught many observers off guard. They did not demand reparations for 3 centuries of suppression and mockery. They did not insist on punitive measures against species that had threatened or attacked them. They simply demanded equality and the freedom to make their own choices without interference. The resulting agreement, officially called the Charter of Sovereign Species, fundamentally restructured the entire system of galactic politics. The key provisions were revolutionary. All species had the inherent right to develop technology without restriction, provided they did not engage in unprovoked aggression against others. Military limitations would apply equally to all species or to none at all. No special exceptions. Colonization rights would be determined by ability to develop and defend territory, not by council decree or elder race approval. The Galactic Council would serve as a forum for diplomacy and peaceful mediation, not as a governing authority that could impose its will. Any species could withdraw from council agreements without facing consequences, provided they gave appropriate notice and honored existing commitments. 57 species signed the charter immediately, eager to establish good relations with humanity. Others hesitated, clinging to the old system that had benefited them for so long. But as human ships began exploring beyond their original 12 systems, as human technologies started appearing in markets across the galaxy, as human culture began influencing younger species who saw them as proof that elder races could be challenged successfully, the holdouts slowly came around. The galaxy would never return to the old order. That system was dead, killed by humanity's refusal to remain victims. On Earth, in the sprawling government complex that housed humanity's leadership, Director Chris Bennett supervised the gradual reduction of the deterrent weapons programs. The stellar igniters, the planet-destroying machines, the terrible biological weapons. All were being carefully placed into secure storage, kept ready but no longer actively deployed. "Do you think we will ever need to use them again?" his assistant asked nervously. Chris looked through the window at the stars visible in the night sky. "I sincerely hope not. But humans have an old saying, speak softly and carry a big stick. We have shown the galaxy our stick. Now we need to prove we can speak softly as well. We need to show we can be trusted with power." Dr. Alex Carter's research teams, no longer restricted by treaty limitations, began carefully sharing some of their discoveries with other species. Not the weapons technology, but scientific breakthroughs that could benefit everyone. Advances in medical treatments, clean energy production, environmental restoration techniques. Humanity had spent 3 centuries being suppressed and limited. They would not become suppressors themselves, but they would never, ever be victims again. Admiral Lisa Monroe, promoted to Supreme Commander of all Earth Defense Forces, oversaw the continued expansion and modernization of humanity's military. The fleets that had been hidden were now displayed openly as a warning. New shipyards produced vessels incorporating the latest technology. Training programs taught young officers the hard lessons learned from centuries of forced weakness. "We prepare for war so we can live in peace," Lisa told her assembled officers during a major address. "Our strength protects not just humanity, but the fundamental principles of sovereignty and self-determination for all species. Never forget what happens when the strong prey on the weak without consequences." In the council chamber, Ambassador Katie Sullivan gave her final address before rotating back to Earth for a well-deserved rest. The assembly hall was packed with delegates who listened attentively. "6 months ago, you taunted us in this chamber," Katie said quietly. "You voted to annex our worlds. You treated humanity as prey animals to be hunted and controlled. Today we stand before you as equals. Not because you granted us that status out of kindness, but because we took it by force." She paused, looking across the assembled delegates. Every species in this galaxy deserves the same respect we claimed for ourselves. The weak deserve protection from the strong, not exploitation. The young deserve opportunity to grow, not suppression to keep them small. If this council can truly embrace those principles, humanity will be your strongest ally and defender. If you cannot, then we will build something better to replace it. And if someone threatens humanity again, a brave delegate asked. For a moment, every delegate in the chamber remembered the 12 dead Vraxian star systems, permanent monuments to what happened when someone made the mistake of threatening Earth. Then they will learn what we learned through hard experience, Katie said softly. That sometimes the only way to ensure lasting peace is to be capable of overwhelming violence. That the strong survive not by preying on the weak, but by being too dangerous to attack without consequences. She smiled slightly. We are humans. We survived ice ages and plagues. We endured wars and natural disasters that would have destroyed other species. We thrived on a harsh world that forged us into survivors. You taunted us in this council, and we ended every treaty overnight. Now we offer you something better: genuine partnership, mutual respect, and the promise that we will defend those principles with every weapon in our arsenal. Katie's final words echoed through the chamber. Choose wisely. The galaxy chose partnership, not because they suddenly loved humanity, but because they understood the alternative was destruction on a scale they could not imagine. The species that had been mocked and restricted for 3 centuries became the shield protecting younger races from elder predators. They became the sword enforcing principles of sovereignty and freedom. Humanity had been taunted. They responded by breaking every chain and demonstrating their true power. But in victory, they showed the wisdom and compassion that would define them for ages to come. They were no longer prey. They were protectors who chose to defend rather than conquer. And that choice made all the difference.